This is both a live and in-person meeting. The first online and in-person for EUA and the first at Scotland House. And because we are virtual, I will say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Commissioner Gabriel and friends of innovation and friends of universities across Europe, can I formally welcome you on behalf of EUA. We're here to celebrate the launch of EUA's Innovation Survey on how universities support innovation across Europe. And we're looking forward to hearing your views in the course of the afternoon on what we have found. And we hope they're diverse, because diversity is the strength of Europe. Now, EUA has supported university innovation and universities' roles in innovation for at least a decade. In 2013, we joined forces with the Commission's Joint Research Centre to investigate the contribution that universities make to regional innovation. And initially, we had an expert group compiling success stories of university innovation in a regional context, and we published recommendations back then about how universities could do better smart specialization strategies. So we were inspired by accumulating evidence and launched an in-depth study, pan-European, back in 2017. And our main goal at that point was to map the interactions between universities and companies, civic and public sector institutions within our ecosystems. And that study identified that the context was changing for universities, owing to the increasing complexity of innovation processes and acceleration of the innovation cycle. So the changing context has itself changed the role of universities in innovation systems. And now our institutions have become the central actors in regional processes. The 2017 study showed that companies and policymakers see universities as being ideally suited to connect the dots, because we are impartial. We're driven by curiosity and long-term perspectives rather than by commercial interests and short-term goals. But to connect the dots effectively, universities have to enhance our innovation capacity so that we can better contribute to the ecosystems. And that work from 2017 contributed to the genesis of EUA's vision for our future institutions, Universities Without Walls, which was published earlier this year. Within it, we outlined, among many other things, the future of university innovation in Europe. Now, the challenges that we are facing in Europe and the world are daunting, and many are highlighted this week in Glasgow at COP26, because the climate crisis in particular and sustainability more broadly are especially urgent. And they've already led many universities to put our missions in education and research and innovation and in culture primarily into the service of achieving the UN sustainability goals. Technological university developments, including digital transition, for example, are changing lives, and they're disrupting labor markets. And universities generate the knowledge that create these new technologies for social innovation. But universities also ensure that the impact of new technologies are researched and evaluated, and that our graduates are equipped for labor markets that are changing due to digitalization, to new technologies, and to artificial intelligence. Inevitably, stronger adherence to SDG principles and adaptation to ever-evolving technology will change dramatically the way that universities and our partners will work. And finally, of course, the COVID pandemic has accelerated change. It's led to a rapid expansion in digital provision. It has augmented support for research and for innovation to solve major societal challenges. And these pandemic-driven changes are likely to be long-lasting. In particular, the pandemic drove greater recognition of the importance of basic research, most evident in the development of vaccines, but also the recognition of the importance of quick societal responses to major challenges. And both of these will have positive impact on our innovation ecosystems long term. So 2021 seemed to be an auspicious time to re-examine the capacity of Europe's universities in supporting societal innovation. So accordingly, EUA, through its Innovation Ecosystems Expert Group, has now conducted a sector-wide survey to build an up-to-date picture of innovation at Europe's universities. And we received inputs from 166 institutions across 28 countries. And from the evidence, we've gone on to develop recommendations for universities, for policymakers, and for funding agencies on how to further enable our institutions to better support innovation. The first important lesson from the study is that innovation has become an important priority for universities. The vast majority of institutions now have a formal strategy committed to innovation. And secondly, universities are strongly committed to achieving transition to a sustainable and digitally connected society. And moreover, they're confident that Europe's research and innovation capabilities will allow it to achieve a sustainable transition and a leadership position in the digital transition in the future. But to fulfill the EU's commitment to the green and digital transitions, the respondents also indicate that we need to further strengthen regional innovation ecosystems by interconnecting them into one vibrant and inclusive pan-European ecosystem. And universities are key actors. We contribute to innovation in many ways by developing new solutions to societal challenges, by fostering multidisciplinarity, by developing, attracting, and retaining human talent, by stimulating entrepreneurial mindsets, and by facilitating uptake of new technologies, in cooperation, of course, with business and the public sector, as well as through startups and spin-outs. But our contributions go far beyond marketable products, because we innovate for sustainability across the whole of society, for nature conservation, and even to reduce the environmental impact of existing infrastructures. To fully capitalize on our institutional contributions, capacity enhancement will be key, and there are three principal factors that will help. Firstly, people, sufficient in number to fulfill our missions and incentivized to engage in innovation. Secondly, not surprisingly, investment to support especially long-term oriented research, curiosity-driven research, because these are fundamental ways to improve innovation capacity of both universities and our ecosystems in which they're situated. And thirdly, space, where researchers and students from different disciplines and all the other actors can engage in a co-creation process. But beyond the specific needs around innovation, it is also crucial to support universities in fulfilling our missions holistically. Because the survey shows that university contributions to innovation, particularly in the sustainable and digital transitions, rely greatly on integrated research and education missions. Based on the survey, we are presenting evidence-based recommendations for university leaders, for policymakers, for funding agencies on what is needed to enhance our capacity for regional leadership in innovation. And we have invited Commissioner Gabriel and you, our key stakeholders, to discuss the proposals and to reflect on how they can contribute, particularly to the upcoming innovation agenda for Europe, which is being developed by the Commission. There are 16 of these recommendations, and I will just highlight 4 in the remaining minutes. Firstly, the survey shows that universities currently incentivize staff innovation activities mostly through commercialization processes and through setting up companies. But it seems that there is still a lot of room for improvement when it comes to building motivation and individual capacity to innovate. So policymakers could help address this, supporting universities in reforming our academic career assessment processes with the aim to recognize a much wider range of academic staff contributions, including innovation activities. And in addition, policymakers could encourage universities to consider staff innovation in a broader sense, including its economic, social, cultural, ethical, and environmental impacts. Secondly, the survey shows that universities collaborate to a higher extent with public sector institutions, other universities, and research organizations, but to a lesser extent with industry. So policymakers could support universities in interacting with companies and other actors in the ecosystem, and support especially universities with lower innovation capacity through reduction in regulatory burden, through supporting skills development, through networking opportunities, funding, incentives, and advice in many different ways. Thirdly, the survey indicates that university innovation for the green transition takes many forms, but technological innovation is still far ahead of social innovation. And here, policymakers could support collaboration between universities, civil society, and local institutions to understand the specific societal needs to which innovation should respond. And this should generate a more holistic approach to the sustainable green transition, so that innovation contributes equally to climate change mitigation and adaptation. Fourthly, universities are confident that Europe will attain leadership in digital transition, but while they directly contribute to this pursuit as innovators, universities also share concerns over the impact of digital innovation upon society, but also on themselves. And here policymakers could develop digital policies that acknowledge universities' concerns over the environmental, ethical, and social aspects of the digital transition. And addressing these and the wider impact on student and staff well-being is essential to achieving effective buy-in of universities and their communities in the digital agenda. So these are some of the policy recommendations. And in a little while, Stefan Bergman, who's the EUA Director for Research and Innovation, he will outline the rest of the survey findings and the recommendations. And he will then be followed by a panel of experts chaired by Peter Bolivar, who chairs our expert group on innovation ecosystems. But first, I would like to invite our Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, Ms. Mariya Gabriel, whom you all know, to join me in conversation about what we're proposing. So, thank you while I transition.